Okay, I want to go over um, the problems that I have with Sturch State, which is a Hawaii, I think it was a appeals case, not a Supreme Court case. So, appeals case, and the facts of the case were basically this: a homeless person living out of his van who did photography for a living, apparently, um, was caught sleeping on public property in his van during the night, which was prohibited by the state. Now, the feature of this that I really want to concentrate on is whether or not the decision by the appeal court is meaningful, and whether it should interfere with any claim that sleep is a fundamental human right. So, before getting to that, let's review basically what the appeals court said. The appeals court ruled that sleeping on public property is not a fundamental right, a due process, a fundamental human right. Now, it's kind of a strange decision, isn't it? Because in the normal situation, you isolate the right from its environment, from everything else. So the meaning of this is bass backwards. Generally speaking, if a right is a fundamental right, it automatically gives rise to strict review, and the opposition must prove a compelling interest that has been legislated least restrictively and in a narrowly tailored fashion. So here we're talking about not just a fundamental right, but a fundamental right in a situation, in a particular situation here, right? So um, that'd be like saying, okay, with the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, that it would be like a ruling saying that the right to bear arms uh, at a Trump rally uh, is not a fundamental right. So, what does that have to do with the right to bear arms? Nothing. Also, if you're looking at the 14th Amendment right to interstate travel, although that's kind of ridiculous, of an example to think about. But what about in the state of Colorado, and I think in almost every state, the right to intrastate travel has been ruled to be a fundamental right. In the case, it was People for JM versus Colorado, the state of Colorado, in which case it ruled that intrastate travel is a fundamental human right. All right, now let's say we're at a sidewalk and the light's red, and we want to cross. Does that mean we have the right to cross? So, no, the ruling could be suchly. It could be the right to intrastate travel against a red stopping light in a crosswalk is not a fundamental human right. So, what bearing does that have on the right to intrastate travel? Period. Nothing. So, the ruling of Sturch versus state is meaningless if you're looking at whether or not sleep is a fundamental human right. And so, because a judge might be, first of all, this case should never be mentioned because the opposition might get a hold of it and somehow convince the judge that it's applicable, when in reality, it can't be applicable. Here's how you deal with sleep as a fundamental human right. The right to bodily integrity has been ruled to be a fundamental right. You Google brain integrity in sleep, and you'll find that sleep deprivation will lead to a deterioration of brain integrity. And it also leads to death if you the complete deprivation of sleep leads to death within 2 to 3 weeks for most people. They've done studies on rats where it takes 2 to 3 weeks. Two Chinese men in different years tried to watch all World Cup soccer games that were televised, and they died after 14 days. And I can go on, but it's easy to show that sleep is necessary for life, and that without it, your body disintegrates. The brain cells are compromised. And one need not go as far as to argue that after you die, the integrity of your structural integrity of your body deteriorates very quickly. Okay, that's not necessary, but okay. So, sleep is a fundamental right in that it falls under the umbrage of bodily integrity, which in itself is penumbric to the enumerated rights of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, as so ruled whenever bodily integrity first became a fundamental right. The history of this may go to the case that happened in 1952, where two cops broke down a door without a search warrant and ran up the stairs and yanked the guy out of bed. And right before they got to him, he swallowed some pills. And they took him. First of all, they reached into his mouth and tried to get him out. That didn't work. They took him to a hospital, and they, against his will, had his stomach pumped in order to analyze the contents of his stomach to try to ascertain whether or not the pills were illegal. So I think that's the origin of bodily integrity. Bodily integrity is used in the abortion cases, and in many other situations. It's a well-established, proven, historically, fundamental due process right. And because sleep is necessary to maintain bodily integrity, sleep is a fundamental human right of due process. That's all I have to say about that right now. Okay, have a good day.